Hello, trumpeters. Before we get started with learning more notes on the trumpet, please check out under the director's guide in the additional resources. I have a Google Drive link there which you can access to look at a fingering trumpet, a fingering chart for the trumpet if you need to remember which fingering goes to which particular notes. It's not 100% necessary, but feel free to use it as you need to. But first, before we begin playing the trumpet again, let's just review how we hold the instrument. So, with the left hand, we put our thumb in the hook here. We put our ring finger, or pinky finger if you have smaller hands, in the ring here on the third slide, and then we wrap our fingers around the valve casing. That is how we hold with our left hand. And then the right hand, remember, keeping the hand very loose. You don't want stiff, rigid hands, very loose fingers. Put your thumb up under the lead pipe, maybe in between the first and second valves or slightly behind the first valve, but don't push it way far in there, just barely in there, just resting on the pad of your finger. And then just let the fingers come down right onto the valves with your pinky on top of the ring. And then we can breathe and play our first note again. This note is referred to as the low C on the trumpet. It's the lowest note that we can play on the trumpet without using any valves. Try it again. And again, remember, take a good breath, a big breath, keeping the corners of the mouth firm here. Small aperture, thinking, pizza, and creating that buzz. So that is our low C on the trumpet, or simply called a C. The next note that we're going to learn requires the use of the valves. This is 1 and 3. The first valve is closest to us, then the second valve, and then the third valve. So the low D, we finger 1 and 3. And it sounds like this. So if you'll notice, the pitch of the note is a little bit higher. It's a whole step higher than that low C that we started with. And if you remember what I said in one of the previous videos, the way that we go higher on the trumpet, on the mouthpiece, or when we whistle, the way that we move is by changing the speed of the air. So because we're going higher from the C to the D, we have to think of just a little bit faster air. Just increasing it a little bit, a tiny bit, not too much. So, go ahead and practice going between that low C to the low D. And then back down to the low C. So if you want to have just a little bit of fun, this is a technique on the instrument that we call a trill. It's where we move very quickly from one valve to the next, and it sounds something similar to this. It's not that easy to do on the trumpet because of the way the air stream has to change, but you can play around and have some fun and see if you can get it. It doesn't have to be that fast. So that's low C and D. The next note that we're going to learn is E, just above the D, and it's fingered 1 and 2. Again, if you need to refresh yourself, please refer back to the fingering chart that I have provided in the Google Drive link. This is E. So the first note that we had was the C. And then D, fingered 1 and 3. And then E, 1 and 2. Now remember that trill that we did between C and D. This is not an easy trill to navigate on the trumpet between 1 and 3 and 1 and 2. But go ahead and try it. See how it feels when you move from this valve combination to this valve combination. It's a little bit more awkward to navigate as we start to go a little bit faster. Another thing to always remember when we're moving our valves is to make sure that when you press the valves down, the fingers go down and they come up really quickly. It does not matter how fast or slow the music is going, the fingers must move as fast as you can move them. Otherwise, the sound gets kind of gooey and sluggish. If you move them too slow, this is what it sounds like. So that doesn't sound very pretty. So the way that we can avoid that is to make sure the fingers go down as quickly as we can move them. I don't know if you can hear in the video, but you can actually hear the sound of my valves hitting and when they come back up because I'm moving them quickly. The last thing to remember whenever we're using the valve is when you press the valves down and when you come up, make sure the fingers do not spring up way high from the valves. That will prevent us from being able to learn how to go faster on the instrument. They only need to come up as far as the valve length is. So from here to here. They don't need to fly up. I see a lot of younger trumpet players doing this, and it takes a lot more time for your fingers to go up and down. Therefore, you're not able to play the trumpet as fast as possible. This is something that we must focus on at an early age so that we don't it doesn't become an issue further down the line when we need it to be there. In the next video, you will learn how to use these first 3 notes, C, D, and E, to play your very first song on the trumpet. Please subscribe to this channel, and I hope to see you in the next videos.